not summon for Aventurine. Or maybe you should summon for Aventurine. So that's what we're going to be going over in today's video, guys. Whether you should or should not be summoning for Aventurine. I know some people get misled by the title when I say it. Do not pull for Aventurine! Or pull. They don't read the last part. They like reading the first part. Just go ahead and look at the comments down below. I'm sure you'll see some cope shit already. Anyway... Oh my god, I almost just choked all the copium there. Anyways, guys, let's go ahead now and get into, you know, his pros, cons, what's he's good at, what's he's bad at, what's in the future, maybe what's his value like. So let's go ahead and first start off with kind of pros and cons first. So, guys, these are the pros and cons, or main pros and cons that I want to talk about in today's video, which is sustainability versus supportability, Doubtful DOT, and then our final point, which is if you have 2 limited sustains or Gallagher with 1 limited sustain, his value takes an absolute nosedive into the ground and you should not pull my G. So we're going to get into all of these points today, starting off number 1, which is sustains versus support here, guys. And no, I'm not going to be comparing him to support characters. I'm merely just going to be comparing his support abilities, which are like his buffs, debuffs that he does, versus just his overall sustainability. And I'm sure we know, guys. So, guys, if we're first just taking a look at his overall sustainability, he is absolutely 10 out of 10. Well, let me actually reduce that real quick. Maybe not 10 out of 10. Maybe he's, let's say 8 out of 10, because I do think he has some flaws, which we'll get into the Doubtful DOT section here in a second. But overall, I would say 8 out of 10 sustainability. But this is enough to basically keep the team alive, right? So, I mean, he's going to be doing his overall job of keeping your team alive, and I think that's the main thing you need to look at with supports. I think that's where the majority of their value comes from. If they can keep your team alive, they are going to at least be doing their job, and that's where we're going to get into his overall supportability, because this is going to be the extra toppings on his cake, right? So first of all, he's going to be doing Fua, right? Second off, he's going to be doing a crit damage increase for basically anyone that hits the target that he puts a debuff on, and he'll be doing a debuff as well. And then finally, guys, he'd be providing a shield on hit or after a certain amount of hits or after a certain amount of stacks that he gains up, which is going to be providing him with SP efficiency here, guys. Now, he not only does all of this stuff here, guys, because, you know, this is great and all, he's also going to be giving F-Res to the team as well. And this is not going to be something like Ting Yun does, right? Because what Ting Yun does is actually prevents you from getting 1 CC on your ally. So that means she prevents 1 CC application on your ally, right? But that only works for one time. It prevents you from getting 1 CC. What I like about Aventurine's ability more, of course, you kind of need to build into this to actually get it to work, is giving the whole team effect res, right? Because he's giving 50% effect res to the whole team. What's really good about effect res, guys, is not only is he going to be preventing you from getting CCs, it's also going to be preventing you from getting dots on you as well. Now, you obviously need to be building some effect res into your allies to actually, you know, build this up some more and get this up some more so you can maybe negate this altogether. Whereas I feel where Fu Xuan's ability on this lacks is it only prevents 1. So if you were up against an enemy that can do very frequent CCs, you're kind of screwed in that scenario. And also just in scenarios with dot too. At least with him, you have a chance to kind of block everything. But at the end of the day, it really depends on how you look at it and how you build your characters. If you're not building effect res, then obviously this is not going to be as useful as building some effect res into your characters. So overall, I think sustain versus his support aspect is super good. Very big plus in my book. I'm going to give this a big green up arrow here, guys, because I think this is a very big pro for him. Now I want to get into Doubtful DOT, which is I think a con for him. So that gets a doom, as the Costco guys would say. Yeah, or 1 boom even. So why do I think he's bad against DOT? First of all, his whole ability, guys, is going to be relying on you getting hit, right? So basically how his talent works is you need 7 points of blind bet. After getting 7 hits of blind bet here, guys, you'll be launching a follow-up attack, and whenever you launch a follow-up attack, you'll be putting an imaginary shield on your whole team, right? Which is really good. But dots equal no stacks, guys. So if you're getting hit with like dots, or the guy that has like a little chalice in his hand that goes, he gets no stacks at all, right? So if they add more enemies into the game that are doing more dots or more damage on you that's not physical attacks, or like you're actually being hit and damaged in that first instance by the enemy, which makes him less SP efficient overall, so you're having to use more skill points to keep the team alive, which overall is just not very good, right? Because you want him to be SP efficient so the rest of your team can be hella SP inefficient and you can get more damage out that way, right? So that's the real problem that I see with him. Now, you can kind of negate this, right? You can kind of negate this with what you mentioned earlier with the effect res here. Effect res is going to be nice, but effect res is only, like I said, 50% here. So if you're only getting 50% effect res, you're going to have to be building into effect res for the rest of the team, like I mentioned before. But I've actually run into times against the guy, the three trio people. I don't know what the name of them are, but they have actually killed me before. They have actually Alt F4 deleted me because I just can't get the shield up. And why can't I get the shield up? The big reason why I die with this, guys, is because it's going to be lasting for 3 turns, right? Which in the grand scheme of things, you think 3 turns is a lot, but when your team is fast, this actually can go by pretty quickly. And one thing I would also like to know here with this, right, is if you're going into the next wave, I guess you could say, right, he's actually gonna, this actually kind of fucks him over some, just because of the fact that whenever you're going to that next wave is basically like an automatic action advance forward for the whole team. So that is a guaranteed turn you're getting there. So 3 turn here, I mean, it is very generous on the turn amount. Don't get me wrong, I'm not even saying this is a con by any means, but whenever you're facing enemies that are not hitting you very often or doing very AoE oriented attacks, or you have DOT characters, this can actually affect how much uptime time you have on the shield and how much, I guess, defensive capability it can provide before it becomes, he becomes more of an SP whore, I guess you could say, right? The ult does give blind bet points as well, don't get me wrong, but overall, this is a overall just downside for him, is him when he's facing dot teams, or I guess very single target oriented enemies, right? That only hit like one at a time and don't do multiple hits on multiple allies, and he can't build up those blind bet points very often. And then the final one, guys, as you know, if you have 2 limited sustains or Gallagher with 1 limited sustain, his value takes an absolute nosedive, and you should not pull my G. Now, the reason I say this, guys, is realistically, your value falls a lot if you have 2 sustains on your account. And why is this? Because you've just kind of wasted resources at that point. And the reason why I say you've wasted resources, because there is no game mode in the game right now that needs 3 teams, right? So let's say you had Fushwan, right? Let's say you had Gallagher, right? And then let's say you had Aventurine, right? So Aven here. What you're going to be doing, guys, is you're essentially, if you pull him here, you are going to be eliminating one of these on your team, right? So that means you have now kind of wasted all of this value into this character, because you're probably just going to be using these 2 on the team at all times, and you've eliminated the need for that altogether, right? Now, I'm not saying that you can't go in and swap this out for this, right? I'm not saying that if you're in a situation that needs more crit rate, you run Fush 1. If you're in a situation that needs more crit damage and more follow-up based team, then you run Aventurine, right? But the main point I'm trying to make here is that, for the most part, most of the viability, or I guess most of the value from your sustain characters is the sustain itself. You don't really run 2 on the same team at all, so that kind of eliminates a lot of its own value. The only value you're essentially getting is what we kind of mentioned before, which is the supportability of this. Because supportability is going to be the main thing after that, right? Like, how much support do these characters provide? And overall, these characters are not support characters, right? Like, their buffs are good or whatever, but they're not, like, game changer, I would say. Like, they're not, like, the end-all, be-all. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that Aventurine for follow-up teams is not game changer, because I really do think he provides a lot for that team. But it's not game changer in the way of, like, they swapped out, like, a Bronya for a Ruane. That makes a world of a difference. Like, I guess the level of supportability that your support characters obviously bring you a lot more versatility than than a sustain would get. I hope you understand what I'm saying here, right? Like, overall, if you're being very value-oriented, or I guess cost-effective, and you're a free-to-play player, low-spinner player, really don't recommend pulling if that's the case. So if you already have 2 sustains, or Gallagher with another limited sustain, and you're already surviving, I don't really see any point of pulling. I think he would be an easy skip, and you can just wait for future characters, which I want to talk about now, right? Because we're getting 2.7 very, very soon, which is coming right after Acheron and his banners. Like, we are getting that shit, whether you like it or not, because it's coming quickly, like me, after I saw Robin over here, right? But Robin's not coming in that patch, guys. What we're getting in 2.7 is going to be Robin's brother, Sunday, but we don't want to look at Sunday, we want to look at Robin. Anyways, waifus, am I right? Other than that, guys, we're getting the not dead Ting Yun, Master Uguay herself, Master Fugue herself, Master Fugu. I don't know how to say her name, but yeah, she reminds me of Master Uguay. Her name reminds me of Master Uguay, so I put her in. I combined her with Master Uguay, okay? And then obviously the last thing we're comparing here, Snatch-Turine, guys. Yes, he is snatched. So, guys, let's talk about overall value that each of these characters bring. Like I said, he's a sustain character. If you have more than 2 sustain characters on your account already, I think he's an absolute no-go. And then we can also talk about his buffs. What does he offer? He offers crit damage, right? So that's going to be absolutely massive. Wee, yippee, crit damage, yay! He's also going to be offering support for follow-up characters as well. So, yay, yippee, follow-up characters. And then he's also going to be what you could say a core of a team, right? Because every team is going to need a core of a sustain character, or I guess most teams are. I mean, if you're really good at the game, you could technically just go sustainless. And we're also going to bring that up too, because I think we're even driving into a place in time now where I think the characters we have do so much damage, and the content really hasn't ramped up in the in-game that much, that I think completely sustainless runs are becoming more and more viable now, which kind of drops, like, over the overall, like, value of sustains characters, but that's for, like, the super try-hard sweaty characters, right? Let's go ahead and talk about Robin's brother, Sunday, right? Obviously, he's going to be a support character, and what I think he's going to be good for, guys...
What's up, gamers? Cartu here, and quick little editor's note. I say 4.0 a lot in this section. I write down 4.0 a lot in this section. I mean 3.0. I don't know why I was thinking 4.0. I meant 3.0, so just a quick little thing there before you put in the comment section 4.0. What the fuck?
So anyways, guys, I gotta go back to work now, so have fun with the rest of the video and save my soul, please, from work. And what I think he's gonna do, guys, is gonna be setting up the 4.0 meta here. And the reason I think that, I actually think that's gonna happen for both of them, right? I think both of these characters here are gonna be setting up the 4.0 meta. And why do I think that? I think they're going to be very akin to what Ruan Mei did for version 2.0, right? Like, we got her very, very close to the end of the patch, and she has been absolutely amazing since then. I mean, if we even take a look, just like a Pride when Seerless, obviously, this is our Bible here, and we need to follow this to the T, but she's been here for the longest time. Like, she even went down. She's went down in Pure Fiction. I think that's the first time I've ever seen her go down. She has always been at the top of the list here for so many patches, and that's what I think they're going to do. Now, I can't go over leaks, right? But we can surely talk about what they might do, right? So, Sunday, first of all, right, might be very good for Fua characters, right? I think that he might be a core for Fua characters. Not only do I think he'll be a core for Fua characters, I think he might be a care for Fua summons. So, that means if you summon a character on the field, our General Jinga-wan. And why I think this is going to be setting up the core is because if we look at things in the past, right? If we look at someone like Ruan Mei, for example, right? Well, how was she going to step the meta, right? Obviously, we didn't really have any break-S teams in the game. And what did she do? She said, oh, we're going to buff weakness, break efficiency, and break effects. So that kind of tells you where the meta's going there, right? Oh, we're getting break meta now, right? So if Sunday does buff something like, let's say summons, for example, right? Then that is going to be what the future meta is going to be, right? Because we don't have really anything right now that kind of buffs that. And if they come out and say that he is going to buff that, he is definitely going to be for the future, right? Because who is the, I guess, best summon-based follow-up character we have in the game right now? Jinga-wan. So obviously we're going to get someone stronger in 4.0. This is summon-based follow-up character. Maybe we're going to get a 6-star Yangqing and he'll summon his sword in. Yeah! I hope we get that. I'm a Yangqing lover till the day I die. I probably would nothing wrong every single time they do a tier list. Now let's be honest, guys. Like Ruan Mei, he wouldn't just support that, right? He would do other stuff. So I'm thinking you probably get damage bonuses in there, so that's going to be really good. You'll probably get something to do with crit in there as well, which is going to be really good. Maybe, just maybe. I think this could be really huge here, and I don't want to get into the nitty-gritty of what I think he could do, right? But maybe energy as well, right? So if he can offer all this stuff, I think that he is just inherently giving you more value than what Aventurine can provide to you in the support category right now. I still think that he reigns supreme in the sustain category, but let's say you are one of those sweaty players or want to be one of those sweaty players. I think he could open up the possibility to run a team without a sustain altogether and you just run supports. I think by far and away that support characters do hold the most value in the game, whereas I think, you know, the sustain characters are like your rock, right? Like you use them there if you need to use them for your rock and beat the content. Like he is going to be there and keep you alive, but the overall, I guess, support that he's able to do is pales in comparison to what other supports in the game do, right? Not to say it's bad by any means, but I think that this overall could be super, super good in comparison to what Aventurine is going to be doing. Right now, let's talk about Master of Fugue, Oogway, Tugway, Googway. Like, she's in Hildy Fire, right? So we already know that she'll be putting debuffs on enemies. I think that's pretty well known here. She's in Hildy, guys. Come on. So we already know that she's doing debuff, all right? But what if she plays into other things, right? Like maybe Super Break, maybe Break meta, right? Because we've already seen the likes of Super Break, and we've also seen a new mechanic added into the game, which is the Exo Toughness. So maybe she gives Exo Toughness as well here. So she's just kind of setting up also a 4.0 future meta as well, which what I think is going to be is instance-based Break, guys. I think that is what the meta is going to be going into the 4.0 meta here is instance-based Break. And the reason I think this is because we've already seen characters in the game like Rappa, right? Which rely on breaking the enemies a certain amount of times to get buffs up. We've already seen this in the likes of Himiko, whereas breaking the enemy a certain amount of times gets her follow-up attack. So I think that's kind of where the break meta is going, is more into that instance breaking versus just like breaking and then super break. I think she'll also offer maybe some support for super break as well, but I do think that is going to be the main thing she offers. Not only that, she'll probably be offering some type of debuff as well, which means she's good for Acheron teams. So if you're Acheron's OP as fuck. Guys, we know how much damage Acheron can put out. If she's able to support that, I'm thinking you could go sustainless here as well and run her, maybe run Big J on a team, run Acheron on a team, and then maybe run a buffer on the team, like maybe Sunday or like Sparkle or something else for SP efficiency or something like that. I think that could be absolutely amazing as well, right? Now, that's not to say that he has no value, because I do think he has inherent value. I'm just saying that if we're talking about in terms of overall value for the game, I think for the most part, support characters give more value for your account than sustain characters do. They're your rock. They are the people that push the meta forward, really, right? Like, he helps with the meta, they push the meta, and that's what I think, guys. That leads me to the final and most crucial part of our video, guys. Should you summon for Aventurine? I think you should absolutely summon for Aventurine under two circumstances. Number one, I think you should summon for Aventurine if you have an absolute godlike follow-up team already. I'm talking, you have Topaz, maybe E1, S1, you have Fei Zhao on the team, you have Robin on the team as well. I think he's an absolute great pickup for that. Number two, guys, I think if you don't have either two limited sustain characters on your account, or B, you have Gallagher built up, he's fine, but don't have that other additional sustain character on your account, or you're just dying, right? If you can't beat the content and you're dying, I absolutely recommend pulling for him. If you are not struggling with the game right now, like, I mean, like, you're not even close to dying on some of this in-game content, don't pull him. I just don't see any need of pulling him. Like, sure, he does offer crit damage follow-ups, but he offers debuffs on attack. I think that 2.7 or whatever the next patch is going to be, I think that's going to be much better for your account in terms of value than what he can offer there. So I don't think he's a must summon for most people that already have, you know, sustains built up. Do I think he's bad? Absolutely not. He's the best sustain character in the game. So if you're struggling with content, pull him. Anyways, guys, that's going to do it for today's video. Overall, I think you should probably save. If you don't fall into one of those two categories, that's just my opinion on that. Leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section down below, guys. I'm going to get a lot of hate, a lot of dislikes for this video, so please leave a like on this video if you've made it to this point, and maybe agree with what I said here. So, yeah, that's going to do it for today's video. Hopefully you enjoy. I'll see you in the next one, and maybe we won't ramble as much that time. Bye, guys. See you later.